Keffe D was scheduled to appear in court on Monday, the 9th of this week, and now that has been postponed until August 9th. And so, of course, everyone knows Keffe D is on trial for the murder of Tupac Shakur. When I went looking for more updates, I did come across a clip introducing Keffe D's new legal team, and I was pleasantly surprised when I saw Robert Draskovic. Robert Draskovic is, he previously represented Devyn Michaels. Yeah, the woman accused of marrying her stepson and decapitating his father, her ex-husband. Yeah, I liked his courtroom strategy. I liked his defense. I thought he was a great lawyer. So I will absolutely be paying attention to Keffe D's trial, not for the outcome so much, but to watch Draskovic in action, and especially in this trial, which I have a really big interest in. So that said, I'm still not confident that the right people will be convicted for the murder of Tupac Shakur. My own research began in 2023, and I was reviewing the work of Russell Poole, basically. And so as I was reviewing his work, and no, he didn't get everything right, but he got the most important parts right. And when you start connecting those pieces as I was reviewing his work, the truth just becomes so clear. And so here's what I've learned in my probe into Tupac Shakur's death. The truth isn't always hidden. Sometimes the truth just doesn't want to be found.
Been thinking, maybe I'm like scapegoat or something. I just want to let everybody know, what I'm saying, I didn't do it.
I'm going to give a brief overview of Compton street legends, and then I want to highlight where the story came from, why this story has to be, when this story was concocted, and how it almost lasted for 30 years. Black Americans began migrating to Compton in the late 50s. According to the book, Keffe D and his family moved to Compton in the late 60s. This is when Compton was a thriving middle-class neighborhood. Middle-class Compton was like a paradise for Black Americans at that time. Keffe D had 5 brothers and 6 sisters. So altogether it was 12 of them. And his father was originally from Virginia. His father was a Marine. And his father and uncle won some money gambling, and his father ended up buying a home for his family. They were the first Black family in the neighborhood. And so soon Keffe D realized another cultural phenomenon, which is white flight. As more Black Americans began migrating to California, and namely Compton, the white Americans living in the area began to leave. So Keffe D also talks about Dr. King's assassination and watching his mom cry, who he really didn't experience seeing her cry often. And so that left an impression with him. He talked about his blood relation to Nat Turner, which is a slave that led a revolt against slave owners and their families and killing a lot of them. And so he is a direct descendant of Nat Turner. He told us a funny story about his grandmother pulling a gun on him. It kind of reminded me of Medea, but this is a real woman. So he talked about also losing 2 brothers and ultimately losing his mom from cancer, colon cancer. The same cancer Keffe D has, and took his large and small intestines. So according to the book, Keffe D again talks about how he's known Suge Knight since the age of 9, how he played on Suge Knight's father's football team, Compton Wolves. Suge's father owned a diesel truck company, according to the book. Suge's family had a big home with a swimming pool in the back, and they would go over to Suge's family's house and have cookouts and stuff in the backyard when they won football games.
You'll have a 90 motherfucker walk down the street and said Suge Knight killed Tupac. Well, everybody know off the top, I ain't the nigga killed Tupac, I'm the nigga protected Tupac. Yeah. But at the same time, bitch ass Puffy can give him a motherfucking star, and every rat in the world said he the one killed Tupac. Yeah. Or had him shot. Yeah. You know what I mean? But if you notice, it was a rat on television saying he the one did the shooting, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, right? Right. If you think about it, right? Right. Why you think nobody been arrested if they said they the one killed Tupac? Because they're snitching to the police, so they ain't gonna get arrested. Not just to snitch and be smart, son. Because Tupac not dead. As smart as you should be. Tupac not dead, he was dead. They'd be arresting those dudes for murder. He was somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar on the island somewhere, right now. You know what I mean?
The police do his for that ninja, says Keffe D. Keffe D might have grown up with Suge Knight, but according to the book, at least when Keffe D wrote this book, or gave some information for this book to be written, he did not mess with Suge Knight. He talked about the Source Awards when Suge Knight went on stage and berated Bad Boy and Diddy, and how Suge Knight was actually booed by the Wu-Tang Clan.
You don't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing, coming down.
And Suge Knight was too afraid to address them because they were grown men and they were deep. So Keffe D said that Suge Knight addressed Junior Mafia because they were boys and smaller. Further, he stated several times the police do hits for that ninja. When he went to Metropolitan Detention Center to meet up with a guy, Boss Man, he said that Boss Man had left some product on the street, and so Boss Man asked Keffe D to go get the product and flip it for him. Give him the money because he wants to start Death Row Records. Keffe D said that Boss Man asked him if that was a good idea, and Keffe D said, nah. I had heard the story about Harry O, and Keffe D mentions Harry O in this excerpt from the book. But basically, he just says Harry O was locked up at the same time, so he doesn't know if there was a prison deal going on or something, but he said that it was the Boss Man that started Death Row Records. He talked about Eazy-E and how Eazy-E used to cook up DOPE in his mom's house, and how Suge Knight diligently pursued Eazy-E to come to Death Row Records, but Eazy-E was just, no, he didn't want to go. Keffe D said Suge Knight didn't become a gangster until after he made his first 100 mil. Eric Von Zip invited Keffe D to the El Rey Theater, and that is where he met Diddy. He said that was the worst thing that ever happened to him. He wished he had never met Diddy. He talked about how he allowed Diddy to use his lowrider. Diddy rented it so that Usher could make a music video in it. But he didn't know that Usher was going to be dancing on his hood. He talked about another time where he was talking to Eric Von Zip on the phone, and it just so happened that Diddy was with Eric Von Zip. And Diddy got on the phone and asked Keffe D if it was okay if the rivalry between Suge and Diddy was elevating. And he told Keffe D that he was concerned about bringing that tour out there. Keffe D said, man, don't worry about Suge. Suge don't punk real gangsters. Keffe D said that he went to the concert, the BET tour, and how he saw all these Navy SEALs in there. So he saw how Diddy had layers of protection in place. Okay, so this is the meeting that is the focal point of the Keffe D trial, the Tupac Shakur murder. This is a meeting at Deli and Fine Wines that Keffe D had with Eric Von Zip and Diddy. Keffe D said that they met up at this Deli and Fine Wines place. They had lunch, they had drinks, they partied. He said Diddy pulled him aside and asked him privately, do you think you can take care of Big CEO and Pop? Keffe D said he could. What needs to be noted is that Keffe D said he didn't say a word to anyone about any of that until he was on his way home. And when he was on his way home, he said to his crew, Diddy wants me to take care of Big CEO and Pop. I think that's $1 million job. That's a job worth $1 million. So according to the book, Diddy did not ever offer him $1 million. Keffe D came up with that amount. Okay, so I swayed a little bit because I wanted to do a section on Suge Knight and I wanted to do a section on Diddy. Now I'm going to go back to Keffe D and how he became the kingpin that he became. People like Bubble Up, Uchi, C-Ray, the Us Boys, Southside Crips, those were his crew. Those were his friends. Unfortunately, Bubble Up, Uchi, and C-Ray would betray him, along with a couple others, at the end. Keffe D had a clear path into sports until he got hooked up with this athletic director at the summer program that he was doing at UCLA. He was there for like 7 years, and he was a team manager for the basketball, the football, and the baseball team. But this athletic director was buying ounces of weed from Keffe's brother, and Keffe would deliver it to him. The athletic director must have seen Kingpin instead of pro athlete or franchise manager or coach for Keffe D, because this athletic director gave Keffe D 4 ounces of white powder. Keffe D flipped the powder in one night, sold all 4 ounces to other dealers and hustlers on the street. Keffe D was 16 then. Keffe D opened major routes throughout Alabama, Kansas, Ohio, Baltimore, establishing Crips everywhere he went. So at the time of Keffe D's height on the streets, he was making approximately $4.2, the book says, $1 million a month. I became interested in the case of Tupac Shakur in July 2023, when Keffe D's house was being raided in connection with the death of Tupac. For the past 20 plus years, there had been no movement in the case of Tupac, primarily because there was an accepted narrative. Orlando Anderson killed Tupac Shakur. It was gang-related. Case closed. For me, however, as a Gen Xer, seeing Keffe D in the news felt like an awakening from some sort of cultural slumber, maybe even cultural trauma. I remember where I was when I heard Tupac had been killed. I was at Phillips Seafood Restaurant on the wharf in DC. This was 96. In 97, I was interning at CNN, accumulating my internship hours to graduate from Howard, when I read the chyron that said the notorious B.I.G. dead. So in 2023, I released snippets of information that challenged the Orlando Anderson narrative. This was my first release.
When Tupac was killed, well, I know something. The mob don't go there and have a shootout in the front lounge. Would make you think black folks could. And who was in the car with him? Quincy Jones's daughter.
Oh, she was? Okay.
How I know that New York Times don't know? How I know that he'd been attempted to be killed so many times, the car is bulletproof. So, you had to shoot the bulletproof car to get him in the head. He was shot in the car.
After reviewing court records, old interviews, documentaries, articles, theories, including those from Russell Poole, I reached my own conclusion. I don't believe it was Orlando Anderson. In the probe, I also uncovered what I believe happened in Biggie's case, something I wasn't even looking for. Unfortunately, I think that the notorious B.I.G. was just a casualty of war, killed to make it look like this was a gang-related crime and get back for Tupac, when all along, both of these crimes were created and committed by the same people. In my very humble opinion, what stands out to me the most, and also proves what I believe in some ways, is the involvement of law enforcement narrating these online stories of Biggie and Tupac and so many other rap artists. They have podcasts, they have channels, they're very popular. Maybe the hip hop task force never disbanded. Now that the game has changed somewhat, maybe they were reassigned and or retired to social media. This is part 2 of Compton Street Legends. I read Keffe D's book to try and understand his confession, why he claimed responsibility for Tupac's demise, and I finished the book with a clear conclusion about why he may have confessed to a crime he didn't commit. Victor was a high school football player and one of Keffe D's young homeboys. In the book, Keffe D would brag when he talked about his crew. He had a lot of what we would call today YNs. Victor was one. But Victor received a scholarship to attend Arizona State. Keffe D was proud of Victor, sent Victor to Lakewood Mall to start shopping for school clothes. Keffe D and some other Southside Crips were en route to meet Victor at the mall. Victor ran into Blood Pyru members. There was an altercation after Pyru members called Victor a crab, which is a slur to Crips. So, when 5 Southsiders walked into the mall unexpectedly, of course, a brawl broke out. Victor snatched the death row chain off of one of the Blood Pyru's necks, and according to the book, this is the mall fight that kicked everything off. A few weeks later, Keffe D and his crew get tickets to the Tyson fight. It was a ritual for Southside Crips to go to fights. They had been doing it since 1988, according to the book. Keffe D said they packed up on that Thursday to go to Vegas. And so when they met up with Zip this time to go to Vegas, they met up at Greenblatt's again, purchased cases of alcohol. Keffe D and his wife drove together in one car. In the green van, it was Little Dog, Fat Man, and Trey. And Foxy Brown was with Zip. They drove to the hotels in Vegas, Smoke in California. This is where Keffe D says he didn't like gangster rap much because he was basically living the life and he thought that gangster rap was fake. Keffe D emphasizes they went to Vegas strictly to party. Orlando Anderson came down that Friday. Keffe D said their rooms where they would stay at the Caesar Palace Resort Casino Hotel. But they blocked out a lot of rooms also at the Carriage House where they would have parties. Fight night finally arrives. Keffe D said he sat on the second row by some other celebrities, but Keffe D and his crew didn't all sit together because they bought tickets from scalpers. So they agreed to meet up at the cafe in the MGM after the fight. Bruce Seldom was knocked out in the first round, so the fight wasn't long at all. So when they all met up at the cafe in the MGM, Orlando Anderson didn't show up. So some other 118 East Coast Crips found out that Orlando had gotten jumped by the guy who was at Lakewood Mall that got his chain snatched. So they found Baby Lane finally. His shoulder was messed up according to the book, but he was okay.
Yeah, they kicked his shoulder and he went to the hospital quick though. Yeah, they kicked his shoulder and he went to the hospital, yeah. Sure.
What exactly was wrong with the shoulder?
They put him on a sling. Gave him a sling. Yeah, they gave him a sling, yeah. Yeah.
In the book, it says that his shoulder was hurt, but he was okay. But when Keffe D gets on the Art of Dialogue, he says they kicked his shoulder and he had to go to the hospital and it was in a sling. According to Murder Rap, according to Keffe D's confession, Orlando Anderson was sitting behind Keffe D. So that would mean Orlando Anderson had a sling on his arm. He had to reach over DeAndre Smith to shoot Tupac Shakur because Tupac Shakur was in a car that was on Orlando Anderson's car's left. Doesn't make sense. So this is my theory. Compton Street legend ends here, where they all met up with Orlando Anderson. And maybe this is where Yusef Jah's story begins. I don't believe this story. I don't believe Murder Rap's story. I believe Keffe D got it from LAPD. I'm not sure who Yusef Jah is working for, but could it be that he was just there to ensure that Keffe D's confession stayed intact? I don't believe Keffe D is credible. I've listened to Keffe D's interviews and he calls this guy Victor that was at Lakewood Mall that started everything, Marcus. There are too many contradictions between the book and interviews and quite frankly, evidence. He can't keep his story straight. And another thing, whatever the real name is of this young boy who had a scholarship to go to Arizona and started this whole thing at Lakewood Mall, Victor, Marcus, he's dead. So we can't ask him.
Never did ever kill nobody. They don't have no evidence against me. Came and put me in Las Vegas. Proved that I orchestrated this.
You said the shots came from the back. Who shot Tupac?
I keep it for the code of the streets. It just came from the back seat, bro. Shouldn't have said nothing. And I'm innocent, man. Nobody never did ever kill nobody. They don't have no evidence against me. Came and put me in Las Vegas. Proved that I orchestrated this.
Keffe D is now claiming that he wasn't even in Vegas at all, which is very hard to believe because in the book, Keffe D says it was a ritual for Southside Crips to go to fights. It's hard for me to believe that they missed this one. And they had been doing it since 1988. Foxy Brown is still alive. Subpoena her. Carriage House, Caesar Palace Resort, Probe Records. If Keffe D was actually sitting in the second row of the fight, there should be footage of him, right? It's just really hard for me to believe that Keffe D wasn't at that fight. And I believe this is why this story was concocted. because he was at the fight. I believe Keffe D was in Vegas, but totally there to party. But it was good for the police because they could use him as their scapegoat. Keffe D was the perfect patsy. So according to the book, Keffe D began to get super angry at everything that was going on about his nephew. So he thought about Diddy and what Diddy had presented him as far as the hit on Big CEO and Pac. He thought about how Death Row Records was really started by him and his crew because they had gone out and gotten the stuff from Boss Man and flipped it and brought that money back. And Boss Man started Death Row Records. So he became really, really angry. And that's when he decided to do what he says he and his crew did. And so they head out to 662 Club. They waited for an hour in the parking lot in the back, but Tupac and Suge Knight and them, they never showed up. So they left. They stopped at a liquor barn before they went back. And they started getting a little worried because the crew didn't like the fact that Suge Knight, supposedly according to the book, used a lot of dirty cops to do his hits. So they end up running into Tupac and Suge Knight that night while they were out. It was Keffe D, Orlando Anderson, DeAndre Smith, and Terrence Brown. And so they catch up to Tupac and Suge Knight somehow. Tupac sees them and immediately starts shooting. And of course, Keffe D says they start shooting back, and all he knows is that the shots came from the back seat. He never mentioned Orlando Anderson was the shooter in the book, which I thought was interesting because it only makes sense that if anybody shot Tupac Shakur that night, it was DeAndre Smith. Especially if you believe the murder rap or Keffe D account of what happened that night. It only makes sense that it was DeAndre or Terrence that could have pulled that off. So anyway, Keffe D says that they partied for the rest of the night. He does say that their car was shot up. He did say they abandoned the car and they went on foot. And so he said when they were on foot, they saw Tupac's ambulance ride by and they saw Suge Knight's ambulance ride by, and talked about how Tupac had shot two off-duty Atlanta cops a couple years before. I guess he mentioned that because they didn't do any forensic testing on Tupac's hands or anything. And, you know, he said they never came after them. No one ever came after them. So anyway, they went back to the Cadillac sometime after things died down. They went back to the Cadillac. He claims that the gun that they left on the tire of the Cadillac wasn't there. They got the Cadillac painted. They got it cleaned. They took it back to the rental car place. And I don't understand how that's possible because if there were bullet holes in the car, how did you get that taken care of? But inevitably, they said they got the car all cleaned up and they made sure to point out that by then it was way too late for any type of accurate and reliable forensic testing. So there, all done. Gang related, right? Okay, so again, I hope Yusef Jah is subpoenaed because I do believe that he is the only person that can help us understand some of the timeline here because it's a bit confusing. But it seems like Keffe D and his crew made it back to Compton by Keffe D's own account. They were not pursued. And it doesn't seem like they were pursued heavily until the Notorious Big was murdered. Biggie. Keffe D met up with Zip again, but this time he met up with Zip at a hotel bar, and he said Keyshawn Johnson of the New York Jets was with Zip this time. They went to the Peterson Automotive Museum, where Puffy was having something that night. It was loaded with stars. Puffy was there, Biggie was there, Snoop was there. Keffe D said he got a call from one of the Grape Street Crips, and he needed 9 more tickets. And so Keffe D worked with him. He got 6. So he went to get the last 3 and told everybody to stand down because he saw the LAPD, he saw the FBI, and there were a lot of Bloods there in the building. He said that there were also 2 girls from Death Row Records that he thinks were a part of this whole setup. He mentioned how Janet Jackson, Aaliyah, Ricky from New Edition or Belle Biv DeVoe was hunting him down for the California smoke. Still bragging about his crew and what they had and how much money they had and how everybody was really after them. Well, the fire marshals closed down this shindig at the Peterson Automotive Museum. So while they were waiting for their vehicles, Keffe D said he saw Biggie, and Biggie told him to come to the party, come over to the hotel and bring that California smoke. And Puffy told him also that they had a barbecue going on at Aaron Spelling's house on Tahini Drive. Minutes later, Keffe D said he saw people running and screaming and mayhem. he heard somebody scream, "They just killed Biggie." LAPD started escorting people out, and immediately he said rumors started to fly that Southside Crips did it. Puffy got scared and started distancing himself from Keffe D and the Southside Crips. Well, how ironic. Duane Keffe D Davis just so happens to be in Vegas when Tupac Shakur is murdered, and he is also at the Automotive Museum when the Notorious B.I.G. is murdered. Either Duane Keffe D Davis is guilty or just the perfect patsy for the LAPD to pin these crimes on. And this is why I believe they went after him so harshly after Biggie was murdered, because it had been done. And now they had their patsy that they were going to put in to make everyone believe this was gang violence. Keffe D did it. Case closed. Proffer. Okay, so just keep in mind that both Tupac and Biggie have been killed at this time and no one has been arrested. So Keffe D goes on to talk about how one day his uncle came over to his house with a newspaper article. His uncle told him that Suge Knight was naming both Orlando Anderson and Keffe D as the killers in the Tupac Shakur case. This is when Keffe D says it got really, really difficult for them. He lost his Colombian plug. They didn't want to have anything to do with him after that. Sergeant Reynolds and some of the other LAPD working for Death Row Records started to press them. They pulled Orlando Anderson over and accused him of killing Biggie. And this is when Keffe D says the crooked cops from Compton started the rumors that Southside killed Biggie to take the heat off of them. They did it, and what a great alibi for both Suge and Diddy. So the FBI started raiding Keffe D and his crew, their homes. They were taking all their guns. And then Sergeant Reynolds and the FBI personally went to Keffe D's house, making him super hot, put him out the game altogether. So Keffe D's crew were turning on each other. They were definitely turning on him. Keffe D was meeting with LAPD. He even met with Russell Poole, who told him that they had been following him. They knew everything that he was doing. So it was on. They really wanted Keffe D and they wanted to pin him with these murders. So ultimately, the FBI brought him in. They wanted to talk to him. They told him that he had a cousin named Diane and she was in Texas and he had been sending PCP through the mail. And so he was put in front of this federal task force. And this is where he was introduced to Greg Kading. And they threatened him. They were naming his family members. And this is where he was propositioned. They told him that he couldn't use his lawyer that he usually used, which was Edie Fall. And the task force told him, yeah, they had been watching him for the last 2 to 3 years. So they were threatening to pin murders on him that he didn't commit. 48 of his crew members and family members were going to be subject to a RICO because of him, and some of them would do life sentences because they had already been in the feds. But what really broke his back, I believe, is the fact that his grandmother, who had raised him when his mom died when he was young, and Orlando Anderson, his nephew, who they tried to pin all of this on, were killed in the same day. So the chaplain, he talks about how the chaplain came to his room 2 times on one day for his grandmother and Orlando Anderson. What's really interesting about the Orlando Anderson incident is something that I recognized before I even read this book when I was doing my own probe, is that it's so weird that Reggie Wright Sr. was at the car wash where Orlando Anderson and Michael Stone, a gangster Crip, and his nephew Jerry were killed. The Reaper was with them when all of this happened. The Reaper was one of Keffe D's homeboys who was at the car wash when Orlando Anderson was killed. The Reaper told Keffe D that it seemed like the whole car wash was shooting at them. Car wash owners, everybody. And I believe it's because they were. I believe that Orlando Anderson hit was just that, and it was made to look like another gang-related incident, but it was actually a hit. So after they had basically beat Keffe D down in every way that they possibly could, Greg Kading propositioned Keffe D, and they told Keffe D that they were going to pin these murders on him. Keffe D said that at one of the meetings he got a card from an agent, and Greg Kading pulled him aside and said that if he called that agent, that all the deals were off. So he wanted to become, according to Keffe D, a super cop who solved the murders. And so Keffe D caved in. And Keffe D said Greg Kading recorded the proffer session and took the recordings and went and made money with it. And so the story goes. So how has reading Compton Street Legend changed my understanding of Keffe D and his confession and this whole Tupac Shakur trial? Well, I believe the why and why Keffe D confessed to something that he probably did not do is because he was broken. Not only had they come after his business and the way that he made money and shut that down, somehow his grandmother and his nephew die on the same day. Or at least the chaplain tells him on the same day. That's crushing. So I believe that's the why he confessed. Not to mention that he would get out of a lot of time and he would get his crew members out of a lot of time. When was the perfect time for this to come to fruition was after Biggie died, because it was done. They could pin this on gangster rap, beef, gangster violence, and no one would question it, and it would be closed, and everyone could move on and live happily ever after that survived all of this violence. Where was the story concocted? In that proffer agreement, where Greg Kading gave Keffe D insurance that nothing would happen to him. Keffe D said most of the questions anyway were about Biggie because LAPD was tied up in that wrongful death lawsuit. Keffe D said they allowed him to go free on a case that carried the death sentence. That's where this story, in my opinion, was concocted. How? All of the violence that was going on around him, losing so many people. He talked about losing 7 other people that had died at that time. They were shook by these crooked police on Suge Knight's payroll. They really, in my opinion, from reading the book, were the only people that Keffe D and his crew were slightly apprehensive about. Let's put it like that. They were afraid. The police have so much power. They can stop you. They can kill you. They can do just about anything they really want to you, and they have a license to do it. It takes a heck of a person to be able to handle that type of authority and not abuse it like these cops that were working for Death Row Records were doing. So my purpose here, again, was just to understand Keffe D's confession. And I leave this book feeling the exact same way. I did not read the book to prove my theory of who killed Tupac. I just wanted to understand why Keffe D would confess to something that he may not have committed. So the only thing that I would say that changed my understanding of this story is the fact that now I must say honestly that Keffe D could have been involved. It doesn't take away my theory. It just includes another player that I overlooked. This is Gigi. Peace.
Yeah. It's not yours, it's not yours. Hip hop don't belong to you. It's not yours, it's not yours. Hip hop don't belong to you. It's not yours, it's not yours. Hip hop don't belong to you. It's not yours, it's not yours. Hip hop don't belong to you. The only rap I heard was when I was at school. My mama ain't let me listen to that in the house, so I started writing songs for the girls. And now I hear a lot of talking from a bunch of men, and I wonder where they got it from, most of them cops. And I think they need to make some room for the queen, because it's not yours, it's not yours. Hip hop don't belong to you. It's not yours, it's not yours. Hip hop don't belong to you. It's not yours.